Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of This Week in the XFL. I'm your host, as always, the referee representing XFL2K.com, the #1 source in XFL news. So, hey, hopefully everybody's having a great week. Hopefully everybody had a great holiday last week, but now we got to get down to business, and I will admit, it wasn't the biggest news week, but we do have some news. First, we're going to start off with something near and dear to me. We're talking about XFL Houston. So we've seen Heather Brooks-Carrots, the XFL Los Angeles team president, do a couple Q&As so far. And from what we hear, they were spectacular, something that you don't want to miss. And now it's time for Houston XFL's time in the spotlight, because XFL Houston team president Brian Michael Cooper is doing a Q&A of his own next Wednesday, July 17th from 6 p.m. to 7:30. And again, that's Central. That's the local time zone here. And it's going to be at Buffalo Wild Wings at 3939 Washington Avenue in Houston. And I will say, from what we've heard from the XFL Los Angeles Q&As, if you're in the area, you do not want to miss it. But if you aren't in the area and you can't make it to the event, we will be covering it. We will be there. So, hey, we have a question for you. What would you like us to ask Team President Brian Michael Cooper? Leave the questions down in the description, or if you're feeling good, if you're feeling a little bit feisty, click the link down in the description to our Discord. We have new people joining every day. We're having a lot of good conversations, a lot of like-minded XFL fans getting signed up, so might as well get signed up too. So be there or be square. You know I will be. So check out XFL2K.com for all the latest updates on this and much, much more. So, as you probably know, the Summer Showcase is concluding this Saturday, July 13th in St. Louis. This is a fan favorite city. You can see it on all the social media accounts. They probably have the largest following by far. There's probably a lot of different reasons for that. The Dome is a great venue, but most importantly, the St. Louis Rams were stolen from them and moved to Los Angeles, which I might add is going to be a great rivalry in the XFL. But like I mentioned, the last Summer Showcase is happening this Saturday, and we have the first two names officially announced by the XFL. So the first is former Birmingham Iron running back Trent Richardson. I like this guy. I thought he was great in the AAF. He didn't, he may have not had the longest runs, but he was arguably the most productive player in the league, right? He had the most rushes per game, and he had 12 total touchdowns. So I'm excited about that. But, he didn't only spend time in the AAF. He was drafted by the Browns, which is not his fault. He moved over to the Colts, had some time there, and then he also moved up north to the CFL for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, right? So he's a little bit of a journeyman, but just from the little bit that we saw from him in the AAF for the Birmingham Iron, I'm excited to see him in the league. This is the type of player I would love to have on the XFL Houston franchise, if anything, just for those tiered extra points. You put him at the goal line, you're guaranteed at least 1 or 2 points. Put him a little bit further back, maybe on the 3s, but you're definitely getting those 1 and 2s every time. So I'm excited to see that happen. And again, I'm excited to see these AAF players get a chance to continue to show off their skills in the upcoming XFL. So the second name that we have announced is Connor Cook, former quarterback for Michigan State University and the Oakland Raiders. And again, I am a Wolverines fan, U of M, but from time to time, I have been known to watch a Spartans game. And if there's any of the players that I did respect and enjoy, it would be Mr. Cook here. The dude was solid, and he actually came at a time when at least when you look at those two teams, U of M and Michigan State, generally, the Wolverines are the football team and the Spartans are the basketball team. And he was a quarterback at a time where he really led the movement for the Spartans to be the superior football team. Funny enough, the Wolverines were a pretty decent basketball team at that time. Now things are switching up a little bit now that Harbaugh is running U of M, but I will remind you, the U of M Wolverines are the winningest team in college football. I just need to remind everyone here, but Connor Cook did something that a lot of Michigan State quarterbacks couldn't do, beat the Wolverines. So sign him up there. I have all the respect for this dude. Like I said, he was the third string quarterback for the Raiders. The other two guys got injured. He started his first game. He's the first player in NFL history to have his first starting game in a playoff game. So that's pretty cool. And he actually went on to be the starting quarterback the next year for the Oakland Raiders. So now we're seeing him come over to the XFL. I'm excited. I think he's the type of quarterback that we might want to see in this league. But hey, time will tell. We have a lot of things ahead of us, a lot of time ahead of us. So only time will tell, like I mentioned, right? So now we're going to switch our focus to some of the new hires that have been made by the XFL this week, right? So there's been a lot, so we're not going to touch on all of them, but we're gonna do a top select few here. So since we were just talking about the showcase in St. Louis, let's talk about the latest hires in St. Louis. And you know, the first two are pretty exciting to me. So the first one is Ron Selesky, right? He was most recently the director of football operations for the Birmingham Iron of the AAF, right? So you're going to see a running theme here. There's a lot of AAF, specifically Iron people we're talking about, and you know, a couple other surprises that we'll get to just a second, because not only does he have that experience with the Iron, right? He spent a lot of time with the Arena Football League, right? From on and off, but for the most part, from 1997 to 2016. That's almost 20 years. People forget that the AFL has been around that long, but they actually go back way back to the 80s, right? So when people laugh that the XFL may not be a sustainable league, all you really need to do is point at there's actually multiple arena leagues. I really feel like there's room for another professional football league, and this guy would have the mind to do it, right? He spent time with the Tampa Bay Storm, the Carolina Cobra, the Louisville Fire of the AF2, right, which was their development league. He moved over to the Albany Conquest, also of the development league, the AF2, and then moved on to the Buffalo Destroyers. And there's probably some other ones in there, right? He was a journeyman of that league, but his roles weren't just head coach, assistant, but he was also in executive levels there, right? And like we mentioned at the beginning of this, he was most recently an executive for the Birmingham Iron of the Alliance of American Football, right? And it's great to see these AAF guys, whether it be players, coaches, executives, get a chance to continue that role in this new league. So we're excited, right? So we're going to talk about another Birmingham Iron coach coming over to XFL St. Louis. And this one specifically kind of surprised me a little bit. So head coach of the Iron, Tim Lewis, is joining the XFL St. Louis franchise as the defensive backs assistant. Now, some may look at that as a step down. Now, I look at it completely different. This dude loves football. He wants to continue doing what he loves, and there's an opportunity in this new league. And quite honestly, hopefully this means that the people that did work in the AAF aren't scared off from the financial issues that league had, right? I think they're starting to see that the XFL is completely different. Although the original XFL had its problems, they weren't financial really. Those were on the field. This XFL, we have the right people in the right places making the right decisions. So now the football on the field should be good. The finances are definitely legit. So that gives Tim Lewis the opportunity to continue doing what he loves. Beyond his time with the Iron, he also spent time with the Steelers, the Giants, and the Falcons as a defensive coordinator, right? So he has that NFL experience, he has the AAF experience, and now he's going to get that XFL experience. So I'm excited about it. Again, like I mentioned, it's really nice to see these AAF guys continue on and move on into this league. So we're going to move on over to XFL Seattle this time. We have two names. So we have Chip Garber, who's the special teams and linebackers assistant. He actually spent time with Jim Zorn for one season back when Zorn was coaching the Washington Redskins, right? So it's nice to see these coaches bringing in people that they've worked with in the past. You're not going to have those communication issues. You already have worked with each other. You kind of know each other. And you kind of, if you work with anybody, you get a good idea of what they know, what they don't know. So I like to see that move. But, you know, beyond his time with the NFL, he also spent some time in the CFL. So for 2 seasons, he was the defensive coordinator for the Toronto Argonauts. And for 2 seasons, he worked with the Winnipeg Bombers. So he's got the NFL experience, the CFL experience, and now he's getting that XFL experience. So I'm excited there. Next guy, last guy for Seattle here is Josh Oglesby as the offensive assistant. And this is another AAF hire, right? Former tight ends assistant of the San Antonio Commanders, respectable team, mind you, is now coming over to the XFL as an offensive assistant. I like that. I like to see these types of things, right? And he also spent 3 seasons with Oregon State. So he has the collegiate experience, he has the AAF experience, and now, as we talked about with these other guys, he's going to have that XFL experience. And more importantly, he's going to take those experiences from those 2 other leagues and bring them into the XFL, as are everybody we talked about today. And that to me is exciting because we're looking at different styles of play, especially when you put arena in the mix. We've talked about the XFL wanting to be a high-paced game. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, if you haven't watched an arena football game, they're high-paced games, fast-paced games. Yeah, they have a little bit shorter field. The rules are a little bit different, but I think when you get the mindset of we want a fast-paced game, how do we put that in a traditional football game? These guys are going to be able to help accomplish that vision, and we are excited. Just a little over 7 months, and we're gonna see kickoff. That's pretty awesome. So we're gonna end this one like we usually do with a little bit of AAF news. We've talked a lot about some of these AAF coaches coming over to the league, and at least one player getting a chance to show off his skills in the showcase this Saturday. But now we're going to talk about their assets. We've reported before that the XFL was trying to secure some of the Alliance assets, right? Not all of them, not the logos, things like that, but more equipment, helmets, pads, equipment for the field, things of that nature, right? Well, it turns out they didn't win the auction. But interesting enough, right? We've been talking about arena football. Former commissioner of the AFL, Arena Football League, Jerry Kurz, is the person that won that auction. So it went for $455,000. So almost $500,000, but it looks like the XFL wasn't committed to that price. And to me, that tells me they probably have a better deal down the line. They might have some distribution deal with a major company or some type of partnership coming down the line, whether it be from advertisements on the jerseys or a direct partnership with the manufacturers. So that tells me a lot of things. Where will this equipment go? Who knows? I would assume a couple things, right? He may either try to sell it to the Arena Football League because, one, they are trying to build back up. They went back down to 4 teams from, I think, 28 at their peak, 28, 29, maybe 30. So I know they're trying to build back up, so they may need that equipment. But I could also see him trying to sell it to the XFL, which I doubt that's going to happen. They probably would have just bought it from this auction. Maybe they'll pick and choose pieces. Maybe they only want some of the equipment, not the jerseys. Who knows, right? More than likely, I see this going to maybe semi-pro leagues or high schools or things like that at a low discount rate. But only time will tell. But if we hear more, we'll definitely keep you in the loop. So really, hey, that's about it for this week. Like I said, it wasn't a huge news week, but there was some news. But before we let you go, we want to tell you about a sweet deal. So the last couple weeks, we told you about a partnership we have with 503 Sports. If you don't know what 503 Sports is, they sell retro football merchandise. Everything from the USFL all the way to the XFL. jerseys, hats, t-shirts, everything, right? So click the link down in the description, go pick up some merch, and use the coupon code XFL2K for 10% off your next order. And get signed up on that. I know you want to. And if you're feeling in a giving mood, check out shop.xfl2k.com. We have t-shirts, magnets, stickers, a couple things there, but all the proceeds from those sales come right back into the channel. They come back into the YouTube, into the website, and into the podcast. So if you want to see these things continue, if you want to see the quality get better, all your help really does help. The support does help. But one last thing, we're also on Facebook and Twitter at XFL2K.com. No dot, still trying to get that premium domain. Come on, answer your messages. One day I'll tell you what. But since we're on YouTube, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell to see when we're dropping new videos. Some are going to be live and some are going to be pre-recorded just like this one. So until next time, sign you up.